Hi everyone, I'm Pam Aasen and welcome to the breakout session called Parenting a Child with Retinal Disease. I'm the Director of Philanthropy at the Foundation Fighting Blindness. I'm also the mom of a 20-year-old son named Gavin who has retinitis pigmentosa. So I'd like to welcome our speakers today. They are Pam Aasen, and Pam is the mother of two children with Usher syndrome, 10-year-old named Ethan and an 8-year-old named Gavin. No coincidence. That was Pam is Pam has been a teacher for 20 years and a mentor to children, to parents of children with cochlear implants. Pam is also an active fundraiser for the Foundation Fighting Blindness. And Shrubsole, sure cute, beautiful, has two adult sons. Her youngest son, Nicholas, now 31, was diagnosed with cone rod dystrophy at the age of 18. Today, he is a PhD candidate at the University of Waterloo. Anne is also an educational assistant for children with disabilities. Katie Vanderyt, 17-year-old daughter Megan, was diagnosed with retinitis pigmentosa at the age of 11. Katie's family fundraises for Ride for Sight and the Foundation Fighting Blindness, knowing they're doing everything they can to further research into treatments and cures. Today, our panelists will share their experiences as parenting children with retinal disease. So please welcome Pam, Anne, and Katie, and I guess we're going to have you come right up to the mic as well. So first, it's Pam.
Hi. It's a small room, so I couldn't help myself, and I brought pictures. There's Ethan. He's 11. Going to be 11, sorry. Next month. And there's Gavin. He's 8. I didn't really know quite what to talk about today. I was trying to think of all the things that I wanted to know, so I'll share a few things and hopefully leave lots of time for questions, because you probably want more time for that. It's still a real emotional topic for me, and I find myself getting teary-eyed often. But mostly now I'm finding it's beyond the sadness. It's because how proud I am of my children and their journey and how resilient they are. So when you see the tears, don't feel sorry for me. I'm just thinking of how great they are. So Ethan and Gavin have Usher syndrome, type 1. That means they were born profoundly deaf, have RP, and have problems with their balance. We didn't know all this when they were born. We knew something was wrong with our oldest son, and it took a long time before he was diagnosed. It seemed so to us at 10 months as being profoundly deaf, and he had his first cochlear implant at 13 months. Our second child, we knew quickly through the infant hearing program, and he had his first implant at 8 months. And they each had a second implant, Ethan at 5 years old and Gavin at 18 months. And so we thought, great, life is good. We'll spend the years we need to in therapy and audioverbal therapy, getting them on track, still knowing that they needed assistance throughout their lives to deal with a hearing impairment. But something just wasn't quite right. And we would talk to other parents of children with cochlear implants, and their children seemed to be meeting their developmental milestones appropriately and didn't seem to have some vision problems that ours did. So it took years, but we finally got into the program at Sick Kids, and they were diagnosed with Usher syndrome. Now that kind of, I would say, probably kind of crushed us a little bit at that point, because we thought we had been through the worst there was to offer. I guess the biggest struggle I want to talk about is what to tell them. You know, they know they're deaf. They know they have cochlear implants. They are part of the hearing world and consider themselves part of the deaf culture as well. And so what do we tell them now? So that's been a struggle for us over the last 3 years. It's been since we found out. They know a lot more than we let on. They're 8 and 11, so there's the internet too. I do not know if they've ever Googled it. But they know they have vision itinerants, hearing itinerants, physiotherapists. lots of people who come to see them. And Ethan, who used to talk about being a astronomer or a pilot, starts to talk about. He said, "We can't. You need good eyes to do those, Mama." And as much as it breaks my heart for that too, for him to recognize that he needs to focus already on things that will be he'll be successful at, and I've no doubt he will be, is a good thing. And that's what we try to foster at home, that confidence. And I think for us, they were so confident in themselves. They believe every other person in their school wants to have cochlear implants. So I believe they will take that attitude with them, and more. Despite all their issues, they played baseball, they surfed. They can't balance. We just recently saw a new balance doctor, and he kind of looked at me, and I knew after he had finished testing the boys, and he looked really uncomfortable. So finally I just said, "It's really bad, isn't it?" And he got this sigh of relief, and he said, "It's amazing how well and how normal they look walking around, considering they have no balance. And they don't have many of the characteristics of a type 1 Usher syndrome." So I know there's a lot we can overcome and lots of inspiration from today. So I will leave it at that, and we'll talk later.
Good morning. I'm Ann Shrubsole. I would like to start by saying that when I received a request to join the panel at this Vision Quest conference, my first reaction was total panic because I get so nervous when I'm speaking to people, a group, but I'll do my best. I know I am. However, my second reaction was that this would be a wonderful opportunity to relate a very positive and hopeful account of my son's journey with cone rod dystrophy. My son Nicholas was diagnosed at the age of 18. I often accompanied him to his eye exams and realized that he took what seemed a very long time reading the eye chart. I actually was a bit impatient with him, never imagining that he was having difficulty focusing on the letters. Nicholas had never expressed concern about his eyesight. However, it was becoming evident there were possible problems, as he was consistently having great difficulty tracking the puck when he was in goal at his hockey games. This revelation prompted us to find out what the problem might be. After having seen an optometrist and a number of ophthalmologists, he was referred to St. Michael's Hospital in Toronto. A test there revealed he had cone rod dystrophy, a degenerative eye disease which affects the central vision first and then progresses to the peripheral vision. The diagnosis came shortly after Nicholas had been accepted into Wilfrid Laurier University, and it was such an exciting time. However, the first thing the doctor said at St. Mike's was, after relating the diagnosis, was that this was a degenerative eye disease and to rethink all goals. Nothing positive was related. It seemed to us that the doctor had doubts that university was a practical goal. Thankfully, my son decided to go ahead with his plans and to deal with any hurdles as they presented themselves. Today, Nicholas, who is 31 years old, is a PhD student at the University of Waterloo and is preparing to defend his thesis in February of 2013. His goal is to teach at a university. Now, Nicholas's central vision has worsened in the past 13 years. However, his field of vision is such that he can still move about independently. He uses a CCTV to read and finds his iPad and iPhone to be invaluable aids. The magnifier capabilities of his iPhone camera allow him to read fine print, and he uses his iPad when delivering his lectures at the university. As a parent, the best advice I could give to other parents is to, first and foremost, of course, be there for your child for emotional support. Then find out all you can about the disease via publications, the internet, and conferences such as Vision Quest. I found that being involved in this way helped to turn initial panic into hope for a positive future. My son was old enough that he had to come to terms with the information he was given on his own time. When he needed moral support, he knew that he could count on his father and me. Have your child take advantage of supports in the community. When my son moved into an apartment on his own, he contacted the local CNIB. Someone came to the apartment to suggest visual aids for the appliance controls. He was told he could get a CNIB card, which would qualify him for free transit on the local transit line. Nicholas registered with the special needs office at the university and was provided with a laptop with which to take notes. He was allowed more time to write exams and was able to use a computer at these times. When he was diagnosed, he was referred to Dr. Elise Leon at the Hospital for Sick Children and has gone there regularly for assessments, which have kept him updated on any changes in his eyes. Dr. Leon was a positive force from day one. She never made unrealistic predictions, but made us aware of the progress that had been made in vision research. Nicholas goes to the Sight Enhancement Center at the University of Waterloo when he needs to buy equipment related to his eye condition. He must be reassessed in order to qualify for new equipment, and most of the cost is covered by the ADP, the Assistive Devices Program. He has received special funding for his CCTV, his computer, his laptop, and special tinted eyeglasses through the ADP at much reduced cost. These items have been invaluable to his studies, as he must read many books and articles in his research for his thesis. Nicholas receives government assistance related to his eye condition. He has had teaching positions at the university, and if his income falls below a certain amount in a month, he qualifies for income support. As well, he qualifies for tax relief. Every parent's story is unique, and every child's eye condition is unique. When I was asked to take part in this panel, I remember the first FFB conference I attended. This is where I get a little emotional. It was the International 3-Day Conference. Sorry, I miss it. I do it every time. Every time I come to this conference, I have the tears.
That's okay. I'm going to give Anne a minute to take a deep breath. I know exactly how hard it is to do what these guys are doing today. First time I did it, seriously, my legs were shaking so much and the sheets of paper were going like this. But I just want to say that I want to thank you for sharing, because it really is important. And I've sat in both places, and I know how this day and this conference can change people and their outlook and everything else. So it's really important that you shared. And
okay.
You're good? Good.
Yeah.
All right.
So at this conference, it was held shortly after Nicholas was diagnosed. It was great timing for me. I remember sitting next to a young man and his mother at the luncheon. He was visually impaired, and in conversation, I discovered that he was working on his PhD. Hearing this story honestly, even though never thinking Nicholas would ever get a PhD, it gave me such hope for my son's future, never dreaming that, like I said, that he would ever go on and get to that point in his education. Every story I've heard at these conferences has lessened my worries for my son's future. There is a good support network out there, and there have been exciting discoveries by many talented scientists and medical doctors. I wish all the best to the parents here and to your children. Thank you.
Hello, my name's Katie, and I took a different approach to today. I'm actually going to talk a bit about parenting a child through the teen years. My daughter Megan is next door speaking today with the youth group. She's 17. She was 11 when she was diagnosed with RP. Unrelated reason, we thought there was something in her eye. We took her, she had an MRI. They thought it was a brain tumor. They did a routine eye check and found out the tumor was just, calcium on her eye. And then the doctor at McMaster did one of these little follow my fingers. And Megan couldn't see, and she is a wild woman. So when she did that, I said, Megan, stop that. Because we thought she was joking, because that's completely her personality. And we found out that time that Megan had RP. 40 degrees vision, and we had no idea. Looking back, we knew. As parents, because we found out when she was 11, Megan got to do things I think other kids didn't. Night skiing, which probably was horrible for her when we look back at it. Go-karting, when she got kicked off of the go-kart track, and we're like, Megan, what are you doing? All sorts of wild things that, had we known, we might have babied her. So my biggest thing is, with a child, is you really have to have that fine line. If you find out early that your child has RP, don't baby them, like, too much. Yes, we have to have a little bit of worry, but at the same time, they need to be kids. Megan has ridden her bike. She still skis. She has 11 degrees vision right now. She does not use a cane. She gets around well. She falls. She laughs. And I think that we have been able to provide her with some laughter and hope. And she will look back and think, wow, I had a pretty normal childhood compared to some. Though she doesn't see the stars, never has, never will. That breaks your heart when you think about it. We live in Rockwood, which is outside of Guelph, very small community. And when we had that big, we lost all the power, we were sitting there and the stars were like unbelievable. And we're all looking at them. And this was just before she was diagnosed. And I'm like, look at those stars. And she says, yeah. And she said to me there, I know what you guys are talking about. I didn't see anything. So she admitted that she had not seen a star. So then we took her to Sudbury and we went to see the planetarium. And we did that so she could see stars. So she understands what we're doing. Parenting a teen can be very difficult under normal circumstances. Friendships have been difficult. She's had people think she's different. They don't like it when she uses her cane, so she tends not to, which is why, because kids are mean. Girls are very mean. Grade 9, she had a very hard year. Group of girls kept pushing her in the hallway and backpacking her, and it was quite difficult. What do you do as a parent? Do I go to school? Do I make a big deal about it? Because that's my personality. It's her child. Her sister apparently dealt with it. That's what older siblings do. And I said, it stopped. What's going on with that? And Emily says, I took care of it. To this day, I really don't want to know what happened, but apparently those girls felt a few pushes from all the grade 12 boys, so they left her alone. And I think family, that's the type of thing you have to create, that you have, it's a family thing, whether you want it to be or not. We forget about Megan's RP constantly until she drops a dish, or we steal her food off her plate all the time. When you save your favorite steak or something, we take it and it's like, oh, it's like we have to have some humor with it as well, because if you don't, it's sad. Like, it can be overwhelming if you don't. The hard time for us this last year or so was when Megan couldn't drive. We live in Rockwood. There's no transit. We should have moved when we found out, but we thought, oh, we're in a small community. She gets to ride her bike. It's great. It's not. It's horrible for her. She feels very isolated. At the same point, she's going to college next year. So do we move now to, we have one more year. So I drive everywhere. I have to drive her to everything. And that's hard when you're an independent girl. She likes to use the bus in town. And so the driving was big for her. She says, I'm going blind. She realized it. She says, it's not fair. I said, I know it's not fair, but this is what's been given to you and you have to move on. And you're not going to live with us. That is number one. It's not happening. You will not live with us, and you're going to be independent because it's important for her, and I can't live with her forever. I just can't do it. We have created a child that's very outgoing. If you've met Megan, we do the Ride for Sight. She's kind of one of their poster children. She's outgoing. My husband and I have taken up motorcycling because of it. And what we created has made it difficult to parent later. She's a spitfire, and she loves people, and so I think with college she needs to go into people work. She wanted to be an interior designer, and I said to her, Megan, don't you need to see the whole wall? Like, I don't get it. Like, and she's like, well, I guess. So there's times as a parent you have to guide them in a different way, which is hard, because really at 11 degrees, 8 degrees, 10 degrees, 6 degrees, who knows what it will go. It'd be hard to do that job. So let's work on what you're good at, and people is what she's good with. Sick Kids has been amazing. Dr. Hyun, again, is our doctor. She's fantastic. Megan has a pink cane, so Dr. Hyun loves it every time she comes in that Megan's got a wild pink cane compared to everybody else. She only brings it because once a year. She doesn't use it. But we've had an interesting time with a child with RP. she's broken her wrist, she's, the falls and the different things that our children do. But those are choices she's made, as she knows at the dark to go around things, and she doesn't. She plows right through everything. So you fall. I sent her skiing and she went snowboarding, and she breaks her wrist. It's like, seriously, this is the type of thing that we've had to deal with and laugh about, because we want her to be outgoing. We want her to be independent, not living at home. She loves Toronto. I'm sure that's where we're heading to college, will be in Toronto. She needs to be in a big city. She loves the arts, and the supports of our school system has been incredible. Again, with ADP funding, we have Vision and Itinerant. 4 of them have come here today to see Megan, so they're next door. So she has people that really love her, and I think that's what's important: school, family, and laughter. I mean, that's my thing, is laughter. That's it. There's one.
We're going to take a couple questions, but I just want to say a couple words. It is so, I don't know how old your kids are, but I know that it's scary. I have taken a very similar approach to Katie and her husband. My husband and I did, because Gavin was our oldest. We didn't know any better. We didn't know how to parent one way or another either. So we wanted him to have as normal of a childhood as possible, but we also wanted him to take ownership of this disease. So we never hid anything from him. We don't know what the future entails, so there was no point of painting a picture of the future, because I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know what that looks like. So why not just be open to one day at a time and making the most of it? They want to be treated like everybody else. And what I've seen through my experience is that our kids are incredibly resilient. We're taking it a lot harder than they do. They are resilient, but they also, I think, need to work through the emotions. And if they can find others who have done that, I think it really is helpful for them. My son's next door as well. He's 20. He's in third year university, and our goal, like everybody said, is for them to be independent, unconditional love. We love him no matter if he has this much vision, the whole range of field, or just a teeny little bit. It doesn't change who he is. So it's really important that they know that despite our efforts to fundraise and to make a difference into the research, we love them for who they are, how they are right now. And I think that was really good advice that I got a long time ago. It's amazing what parents will do for their kids. We'll basically chew off our right arm if we have to, we've all done so much to help the foundation, and that was our outlet. My goal was to make sure that Gavin was an ambassador for himself and his cause. So at university, he's not shy about telling people this, and I was so proud of him. The first day we took him to Western, and he got out. He said it, when you drive in and the orientation people are there and they're welcoming you, and they said, well, now we'll take Gavin and you guys go park the car. And he says to me in this voice, do you think I should whip out the white cane? Okay, now he's never used the white cane. I didn't even know he carried it. We had him, we made sure he had orientation and mobility training so he knew how to, but I got dumbstruck. My jaw dropped and I didn't know what to say. So next thing you know, he gets out of the car, he whips it out like a lightsaber, and he walks towards this group of people that he doesn't know, carrying a white cane, identifying himself as somebody who's only partially sighted. Now I'm going to get emotional, because I got to tell you, he was my hero that day. I thought, how brave to know that this is a next chapter in his life, and that he was going to identify himself, even though he hadn't previously, but that he was going to identify himself at university as somebody who needed to use a white cane. So if I don't see you in the hall, you know what? This is why. I don't recognize your face or anything else. I think these kids, their friends are true friends, and they accept them for who they are. So anyways, that's all I'm going to add, because you guys need to ask your questions. And so Please, yes.
Because I just thought something you said was really important, because we try to make sure that our kids are advocates for themselves. And even though many of these devices they don't need yet, we've introduced them. We have a CCTV at home. They have white cane training. They've spoken 4 times to groups of teachers, to parents, to their peers. They've given speeches that they've written themselves to advocate for their needs, and they are better at it than I am, and it makes me so very proud. They went around their school with their vision itinerant to show her where they needed to put the green or yellow tape in the places where they couldn't see it. They're the ones that came up with the fact that they can't see in the dark and they need emergency lighting in the bathrooms. So we started that very young because of their cochlear implants, which we decorate. We make them, it's part of them. So we make them do whatever they want to be proud of them. I just bought them Blue Jays. What are they called? Like you make them for your cell phones, the stickers or whatever, you know. So I just bought them like that. So we make them take ownership and try to make them confident young men. So.
Does anybody have any questions that they'd like to share? I have to tell you that my son wouldn't use the white cane until Dr. Aasen said to him at one of his appointments before he went off to school. And she's very serious when she talks to him. She's not looking at me at all. I'm actually lucky that I even got to be in the room, you know. And I'm saying, let me be in there with you. So anyway, she said, you use that white cane because I don't want you to be not safe. Like I want you to be safe. And this way, because he goes to a very, very large university. And so he actually was helpful. Well, it wasn't at all helpful the day they had 2 feet of snow while he was in a lecture, and he came out and the whole of London was under this giant mountain of snow, and when everything's white you can't see a single thing. So that's when he had to ask for help for sure, because a white cane doesn't really help in a white snowstorm. But anyways, does anybody have any questions?
This is my first conference here, and I'm trying to learn a lot and absorb a lot. My daughter, she is 1 year old, and when she was 3 months old, we started seeing this involuntary movement of eyes, and she's now right now we're at LCA, and so we're going to do more genetic testing. So we don't have any history in the family that we know of up to 6-7 generations. So it's maybe something which is coming new to us, or we're trying to figure out more. It's been a great learning curve for us. It's something new. It's also how the grandparents take it, how we take it. But just by getting into it, we have learned how much is there in it, and how much of I'm trying to find the right words, but I was just speaking with Dr. Aasen about it. Is that, for example, the Chinese community, there's a lot of stigma around it. People don't come out. People don't want to talk about it. So I'm actually working with FFB and CNIB on a lot of these advocacy and education issues, which is kind of my forte. So one thing I do want to ask is, how do you deal, especially when you have my daughter's 1 year old. She we sometimes we tend to laugh at how she can see, but she cannot see far. And I have to bring in the sense of humor for my wife. So, like sometimes I call my daughter's name and I walk away. My wife is there, she's looking at you. I look at her and say, no, she can't see me. So we make that fun. We keep it moving. But when your child is really young, how do you deal with the kid, but B, with family and friends? Our daughter gets the best attention when we go everywhere, and I want our daughter to be treated normal. So how do you deal with family and friends, and how do you deal with your own child, especially when they're young, in terms of parenting?
I think as parents, we have to be kind of the role models for our parents and our brothers and sisters, and how we want our children treated, because my aunts and uncles are devastated, and I have to be their support basically, and tell them that the boys are fine. Just treat them as you would any of the other nieces and nephews. And when they see what we're doing, and we make humor an issue too. I travel with Steri-Strips because we don't go to the emergency room anymore. We do it ourselves because we'd be there all the time, because I have children who bump into walls and corners and fall, and everyone else around us is freaking out, and we're just like, oh yeah, he fell again. So they watch us to go by our lead, basically. And I think that's worked a lot over the years because we started with the cochlear implants and everybody would yell at them. And I'm like, you don't have to yell, So it's just a matter of time.
It's interesting. My mother lives in Mexico full time, and when our daughter was diagnosed, RP is a very hard thing for people to understand if they don't understand it. Because here Megan is 11 degrees, might need a cane, can't see, but then picks up a book and reads it normally. So we get on a plane and people are like, well, what's wrong? There's nothing wrong with her. Well, my mom was telling me there was a gentleman in her village who was begging. He was blind, but he could see, so she wasn't giving him any money. And after Megan was diagnosed, she went up to him and found out that in fact he had RP, and all this time she felt so horrible because again, you don't understand what's going on and throughout the world. So I think we have to advocate for the kids, and that's a big thing, that people think everybody who's blind is 100% blind, and we know that's not true. So but until people understand that, your families, we just have to advocate in how you want your child to be raised and what you want, and I think that's so important. And our family is very strong in laughters. That Megan we never ever have had that issue where they've been so upset. If they are, they don't show it to us because we don't need to see that. So if that's their thing, then you know what? Go do that somewhere else. This is how we're dealing with it, and it's something we have to deal with. And people work through their grief in a different way, and I think that's just how you'll learn as you go with her what works for your family.
I think it is important to be open. People sometimes are afraid that if they bring it up with you, that it's taboo, right? Oh, we won't talk about the elephant in the room right now, even though your son or daughter might be doing something clumsy or whatever. It's okay. Like, I think I know after we attended our very first conference in 1998. I was so filled with information and hope and the research and what the doctors were saying. We went back, we had a panel like this, and I was just so inspired that I couldn't sleep. And what I ended up doing is writing my feelings and my thoughts down and what we had learned in a letter. And I sent that letter to all our friends and family. And basically it was saying, some of you may know that Gavin's been diagnosed with this, because we were fortunate in the timing that the conference was about 6 months after he had been diagnosed. And we had been having a hard time dealing with that diagnosis. But I wrote it down, and it turned into a letter that I felt I could send to our family and friends and said, it's okay to talk to us about this, and we want to share this news that there's a organization called the Foundation Fighting Blindness. They have given us hope for the future because research really will lead to treatments and cures. So it was, and then I guess I had a little bit of fundraising in me at the time. It seemed like a long time ago, but I said, we know there's a lot of wonderful causes out there, but if you could find it in your hearts to support this organization, it's going to do big things. Think about curing blindness. It's monumental. So I don't want to take away from any of your good causes, but if you would think about supporting this organization, you won't be sorry. Next thing you know, all of a sudden we were getting all these little notices from the foundation saying a gift had been made in honor of your son. And it was our friends and family's way to say, we're with you, we support you, we want to help. You can talk to us about this. And so I'm not shy about telling people about it. I think that's been a model for Gavin to not be shy about who he is and the challenges that he has. So that's about all the time we have.
Just wondering if your respective children were here and we asked them for their advice, what would they say?
Hi, my son Nicholas, who I said is 31. He hasn't come to these conferences, but I've talked to him about them. And there was somebody at the university who was like making a big deal about the fact that you couldn't see, and he said, just making this big deal about the fact that you can't see. I said, just get over it, like do what you have to do. And I thought, well, that's not very, you have a certain personality, Nicholas, where you can like anything rolls off his back, right? Not everybody, you need to give them a little bit of empathy there, because you never know how people are taking things or how long she's known that she's had a problem. So he might say, just get on with it. But I try to tell him, be a little more empathetic about it because, not everybody can handle it the way he can.
I can answer that. Every year we go to sick kids. Megan says to me, Mom, I am not sick. Look at these kids, because she loves kids, and you see them and they're so sick. And she says, I'm not sick. That's all she says. And she just can't believe that these young kids are going through so much and they're making such a big deal about her. She's coping. So
I want to thank Anne and Pam and Katie for sharing their experiences. Thanks very much. Bye.